spray can, see? And you spray it on dog poo, and the poo disappears.
Filming wrapped on Envy the first week of October 2002, which meant Jack Black was heading to New York to begin work on the School of Rock. He and Mike White would become roommates from then until filming wrapped. They would play around with nuggets of lyrics together, but ultimately, Jack was initially taking responsibility for writing all of the songs in the movie, a momentous task for any man, let alone one who had 5 more shows to perform with the greatest rock band in the world, including in Sweden and London, before filming began.
The funny thing for me, it was actually one of the first comedies I've ever done, and I was like, I got this movie and it was so interesting because I loved Rick's reputation and I was in New York, but at the same time I was, oh my god, it's a comedy, like, how bad is this for my career? And then from then on I actually learned that it's like, it's really fun to work on a comedy, and I've done tons of comedy and actually love working on comedy because at least you're always laughing. There's so many dramas where like you have to tiptoe around serious actors that have to stay in their role and in their mood and whatever, and then if you do comedies, you're kind of having a lot of fun. And that was one of the things, like, for me it was like, it's a comedy, but I'm not gonna do it, shoot it any different than any other movie. And that was Rick too. He said, I don't want it a comedy with all weird backlights suddenly, and I mean, I'm sure there's some of it because this is 2002, but yeah, not like, we were not thinking, it's a comedy, so it has to look a certain way. It's just like, it's a movie, it's about certain people, and this is how we gotta do it. It was the fun part of it.
The kids who didn't live in New York were put in a hotel, while those who did could commute.
Had a great place at the Intercontinental, 2-bedroom suite, as did Joey, as did Miranda, and Rivka. So we all kind of, became family in all sorts of different ways while we were living there.
Life was forever changed for every one of these kids, and unbeknownst to anyone, a million other kids to come. As previously mentioned, Jack originally planned to write all the songs himself, but quickly learned he'd need help.
This was the most fun I've had making a movie, but it was also the most work I've ever had to put in, because not only was I, acting, but I was also stressing about all the music, and I tried to write all the music, and then I had a nervous breakdown and said, I'm not a good enough, fast enough writer. I need help. And then we got some other writers involved, and I was like, come on, you guys, what are you doing? Let's hear what you got. What do you got? What do you got? You guys don't have enough. I'm going to get some other guys. And I'm going trying to get bands together to write stuff.
Liam Lynch helped him write Step Off. Mike White had written Math in the original script, but Jack was able to write the music for it. Jack wrote In the End of Time, which couldn't be on the album in the US originally because of contractual complications.
This was so,
into a groove.
difficult.
Right.
I mean, you make it look easy. I can't imagine doing anything harder.
I wrote that little nugget.
What?
The song there.
That's
mine.
Totally.
Didn't make it onto the soundtrack album, unfortunately.
That's because of the people who own you elsewhere, right? But no, I remember talking about what would his song be. I like that you caught a perfect balance between personal, like the rent issues like in his own life, but then he had these kind of grandiose.
I don't know, just to sing about your own hardcoreness seems
right. You like the idea of Dewey as kind of full of it, sort of grandiose about in the end of time. It was big themes, big things, he was thinking about, but it was also personal. Like, I like that Dewey's working from a place of hurt and anger, maybe.
Yeah.
There's a certain bit of like, I'll show you.
Yeah.
And so that you could combine those both in one song, I think was really impressive. The way it shifts tones there.
Well, there was a time I thought, I'm going to write all the music in the movie.
Yeah, that was the initial.
And then I gave up. But at least I got that one in there.
Yeah. Warren Fitzgerald helped bring In the End of Time to life with the whole band playing it together. He also wrote the music for the opening song, Fight, performed by No Vacancy. Their other song, Heal Me I'm Heartsick, was brought to the movie by Craig Wedren, who also composed some of the background and transitional music.
My name is Craig Wedren, and I composed the score for School of Rock and also wrote the song Heal Me, I'm Heartsick. And my involvement began when Randy Poster got in touch with me. He and I had worked together when I was still in the band Shudder to Think on the soundtrack for Velvet Goldmine. Randy got in touch with me, basically said, I have a great script for you. You're going to love it. It's right up your alley. We're going to need we definitely need a song or two, and there may be some score needs, although most of the movie is going to be needle drops, which is parlance for licensed pre-existing songs. And so he sent me the script to School of Rock, and of course I was charmed, won over, blown away. And the assignment, I think, was we need a power ballad for the evil band that wins the Battle of the Bands, and it should sort of be loosely in the style of Creed, who were, I think, then still a household name. And so I got right to work and had a blast. Needless to say, because it wouldn't.
When you got involved, was the production already somewhat in process, or were you just going off of the script when you were coming up with the ideas for the compositions?
You know, that's interesting. I mean, I must have been going off the script because Heal Me, I'm Heartsick would have needed to be a pre-record for them to shoot to. So I don't know if they were already into production, already into the shoot when he got in touch with me, or if that was at the beginning, and then the score, of course, and working with the kids, rehearsing with them, sort of being on set occasionally when they were doing things, but mostly, mainly corralling band practices and being an intermediary between the parents of the kids in the band, kids, and the production. Once they started doing late night promo after the movie came out, that would all have been much later. I hadn't thought about it, but I must have done a bunch of work on it at the very beginning, maybe even before they were shooting, and then came in much later once everything was shot to do everything else.
The main song, often called Zach's Song or Teacher's Pet, is officially credited as School of Rock. It was lyrically written by Mike White, but then on Friday, November 29th, 2002, Jack Black went to a stroke show and fell in love with the opening band, the Mooney Suzuki. He didn't have any trouble convincing them to help complete the song. Sammy James Jr. is even the one actually playing this prominent guitar solo. Sammy James Jr. tells Reverb that he and the other members of the Mooney Suzuki were asked to make a cameo. That was kind of crazy because we still had not been told that they were using our song, he remembers. I was thinking this could mean they're using it, or that they felt so bad that we worked so hard on this track that they're going to give us a cameo as a consolation prize. I'm sure they breathed a sigh of relief when Rick came up and thanked them for their contribution.
That was one of our fights. You have to shoot pretty wide with somebody like Jack. All the fun is in his body, like it is in his hands, the way he moves his hands. So if you do a medium shot, it needs to be pretty wide because you want to see his hands, and you want the funniness of his body. And most of the time, it's way funnier than you just have him in a close-up. And those are and that was one of the things I looked for when we got the movie. How much do we shoot? Because I knew we had something of everything, but they used the medium shots of the wider medium shot most of the time because he's just funnier in that. That is gives you a better idea of who Jack Black is and what he does, and that's something that's certainly. So many studios are only interested in close-ups and close-ups and close-ups, and that's not where the fun is. Certainly in comedy, that's not most of the time. That's not where the fun is. For punchline, for the reaction on something, but for a lot of comedy plays of different people. You want to see those different people in the frame, and again, people do funny stuff with their hips, with their hands, and you need to. not that you can only have one take of some wide shot and then everything else in mediums and extreme close-ups, because you're not going to get the comedy. But that's sometimes a really hard fight. That is, people just want to see close, cute close-ups of kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, when you're working with someone like Jack, who comes with so much skills, you pick up on a little nuance, something they do, a look, an expression, and you just register it. And maybe you will that work in the movie? You know, where's the appropriate place for that to work? Or if they do it in a rehearsal, it might be 8 weeks later you're actually shooting that scene that you rehearsed way back when, but you just have to remember, like, oh, you did a funny little look right there.
And the legend of the ranch was way hardcore. That's what I'm talking about. That's The Rock.
By the time you're actually shooting it, it's really no longer funny to you. Something you rehearsed forever, something you have put all this time into, and then you're shooting the 7th take of it. You have to just trust that it's going to be funny in the future. Right now, we're just working.
Because you're not hardcore. No, you're not hardcore. Unless you live hardcore. Unless you live hardcore. Yes. Okay, good. Now I'm going to sing my part.
Richard Linklater's style involves rehearsing scenes extensively and utilizing those to rewrite and rework the scenes to perfection. When he signed on, he had already started reworking the script, but having all of the actors now able to begin rehearsing and building chemistry in a similar way to actual school helped everything. On the first day of rehearsals, Robert Sy came up to Rick and said he perhaps shouldn't be in the movie because he's not an actor.
Robert Sy is the king of the universe.
Yeah, I agree. Like, this scene mirrors something that actually happened to me. It was the first day of rehearsal. Robert shows up, and this is when you know you've just won the whole thing, because he was like, I do not think I should be in the movie. I'm not really an actor, so I do not know what's expected of me. Perhaps I should not be in the movie. I'm like, Robert, that's why you're in the movie, because you're going to be great. But that's when I knew we were on track with him.
Jim O'Rourke worked with them at the Sonic Youth Practice Studios. He had to figure out what style everybody played in, find the strengths and weaknesses in their playing, and get it all to blend together seamlessly.
How were you first approached? Was it by Randall Poster?
Yeah, it was by Randy. They had already used like Lee Ronaldo and a bunch of other Sonic folks for various projects they had done. So I think it came through that, because they needed someone who would be actually able to teach how to play, and as opposed to they didn't need really a musician so much as someone who could teach music but would also know about the music. So I think that's why the idea came to them. It was basically like, oh, Jim knows how to read music. So like maybe I was the only like musician in their circle that knew how to read music or something along those lines. Before the filming part, the main work was to teach the kids how to play, the 4 actors. And we actually used the Sonic Youth rehearsal studio for that. And they would come in with their mothers, and I had it, set up. There's the drum, the bass, the keyboard, and the guitar. And basically taught them the songs that they had to play in the movie. Is it Joey? Joey was the guitar player?
Yep.
And I forget the keyboard player's name.
Robert. They
were actually very, very talented musicians, so it was really easy with them. Robert had only played classical music before, and he didn't even know this music, let alone have played it. So with him, there was a lot of trying to get him to get his rhythmic feel changed, because it was very, very straight. But there was, I forget how long we rehearsed, and then Jack Black came in once or twice to rehearse with them. Although usually when Jack would come in, it would be mostly just goofing around. And more time for him to sort of bond with the kids and stuff. Yeah.
Tutors also came on set to make sure these children could continue their education. One of their tutors was a talented Irish fiddler, whom Kevin and Joey would end up playing with at a local club in the last weeks of filming. When rehearsals began, James Hosey wasn't actually a member of the cast. Marco was being played by a kid named Martin at the time, who allegedly would count lines and created a culture of competition. Richard Linklater had to replace Martin, but Jordan Clare said that James Hosey slid right in. The last week of rehearsals, Mike White, Jack Black, and Rick Linklater became Maggot Death.
Oh, wait. This is my cameo.
Oh my God!
That's me, the long lost
In the
drummer.
middle. You're the guy in the middle.
But we were going to talk about, you're going to say, whatever happened to that guy?
Well,
Didn't
I
he
was
OD or something?
I don't know if that counts as a cameo, dude. If you're
I think
just
it
in
does.
a photograph.
That's my kind of cameo.
A cameo, you actually have to do some acting. And I guess you
Hey,
did when you posed for the photo.
I got tattoos put on myself for that. Wore a little fishnet. We did that.
That's
Remember,
true.
it was like the last week of rehearsal.
Yeah.
We were out there and took some photos.
One thing that happened during the rehearsals is that I smoke and usually I'm smoking regular cigarettes, but at that time I was smoking roll-ups, and I wouldn't smoke when the kids were there, of course, but before they came, because it was the Sonic Youth Studio, so I was in the back there was a room where you would do like repairs and stuff, and they had like a soldering iron and everything. And I was back there and doing some repairs on something, and I'd had a cigarette, and so the kids came, and one of the kids walked by that area to go use the bathroom that was in the back, and they went back and told their mother that there was a joint in the room, and it actually caused a bit of a problem, because then the mothers like contacted the producers, and there was, and yeah, I remember, like I didn't hear about anything at the time. I heard later when the producer told me like that had happened, and that it took they had to do some reassuring that no, that was just a cigarette. so that really made me scared of working around the kids, because it's like
Yeah.
I'm going to get in trouble for something I didn't even do.
I played not leads in films, but some featured roles, and I can remember on one hand rehearsing. Very rare.
As much as the movie is not set in New York, we actually shot it in New York because Scott Rudin had another movie, and he wanted that was going in New York, and he wanted to be able to go from one to the other. So that's why we shot it in New York. And well, it's not even set in New York. That was great.
Once filming started, my job was moved over from teaching the kids to being on set and making sure they were playing correctly, wherever, so that Mr. Linklater didn't even have to think about that aspect of it. So I was there on set whenever they filmed any scenes where they played music. So not so much like quality control, but just to make sure, I mean, if there was mistakes or something, they wanted me to tell them, and they would stop takes if it, musically was wrong. But so yeah, then I did, then moved into that kind of work once filming actually began.
Filming began at Wagner College on Staten Island, where the exterior shots of Horace Green were filmed. The first scene they shot for the movie was Dewey bringing the instruments inside, which, I must admit, personally, has always made me wonder why he only tried to sell his guitar if he had all those instruments.
The school was on Staten Island, so on a hill, on the highest hill on Staten Island. So the wind chill. We were shooting like, all this stuff, all these scenes around the school were like between Christmas and New Year, I think. And it was so freaking cold. It is a miracle that not all the kids got sick.
Then production went to Rahway, New Jersey, where they filmed the shots outside of the Battle of the Bands venue. The scenes in Mullins' office, the teacher's lounge, and the cafeteria were shot on Long Island at the prestigious Buckley Country Day School while they were away on Christmas break. Much of production then moved to Broadway sound stages for the classroom scenes and for Dewey's apartment. North 6 in Brooklyn was the bar where the opening of the film was shot, now the Music Hall of Williamsburg. The bar where Dewey takes Mullins is called Cargo Cafe and can still be visited on Staten Island. Nearby is the St. George Theater, where the film's finale, Battle of the Bands, was shot.
It really was like a swim in a lake. It was so calm and beautiful and pretty easy. I mean, the score just kind of flowed. There wasn't a ton of it. Heal Me, I'm Heartsick kind of flowed, as I recall. Everybody really loved it. I had an embarrassing moment where I auditioned for Richard for the role of the lead singer in No Vacancy. I auditioned for it, and it was really embarrassing and not very good. But that honestly, that was the, but I'm still glad I did it. I'm proud of myself for, for stealing myself and taking the plunge. But everything else was just smooth and fun.
Did you work with Adam Pascal at all for his performance of that?
Yeah, we probably did. I'm sure I went through it. I'm sure we went through it a bunch. Coincidentally, I was friends with his, I don't know if they were married at the time. I think they were. His girlfriend or wife or fiance at the time. And so we had a sort of a mutual connection. And I remember hanging out with an acoustic guitar and going, this could be a memory implant. I could be totally wrong about this. But if memory serves, we hung out and just kind of, went through it a bunch of times with a couple acoustic guitars. Such a good singer. It really didn't take a whole lot of coaching.
The opening credits being on posters and clothing was an homage to 1963's Scorpio Rising. They originally wanted a credit to be on a hand stamp, but sizing regulations killed that idea. The Guild regulations also necessitated them to redigitize Scott Rudin's credit. They considered altering the neon sign as well. After partway through production, a memo was sent out that the movie would simply be called School of Rock, no the.
Opening scene of the movie with the live titles, and that's really something that Rick, but then of course the studio, we want to change that later and we don't need that, and he fought for that to shoot it like that and make that all, because that's so much fun and so much that you enter that club and you end up in a big close-up of Jack's face, and that is actually really one shot. There's no cheats in it. There's no people's like the way they do it now. Often design it was 5, well, maybe there was 1 or so over here, but I don't think so. He did it all live in 1. That's how he wanted it.
The apartment was expertly put together by production designer Jeremy Conway and his crew, filling Dewey's half of the brick-walled space with vinyl records, assorted guitars, and a drum set. While Ned and Patty's side of the apartment is neat and orderly, instantly tells you about the characters before you've even really met them. Dewey's mattress on the floor and takeout containers scattered everywhere tell you as much about him as do the stickers of 9 Inch Nails, Beastie Boys, and AC/DC on his window. Originally, his bed sheets were rainbow too.
Action.
Sorry, guys. That was way out of line.
When Dewey asks if Picasso would be asked to sell his guitar, it's played as him being dumb, but Picasso did indeed create and paint guitars that are in museums. Subtle things like this show the deeper character that is Dewey Finn. All the hallways were shot in one hallway. Cinematographer Rogier Stoffers and his team, on top of everything else they added, helped to make Dewey's van almost as much of a character as anyone else in the movie.
What kind of challenges presented itself filming his van?
We picked a van that had like a higher ceiling, like not too low, and we did quite a few shots and things in that van. And it was, but it's just like. And Rick comes from a world where you do that. Like he comes from, and me too. I come from Holland. There's only a car. Like, okay, now we need a shot from on top of the car. Yeah, I've been laying on top of driving car. I would never be able allowed to do it here, safety wise, and probably I wouldn't do it now. But then, you lay on top of the van, you hold yourself. by yourself to the roof or whatever with the camera. And yeah, there's no other way of doing it. Like, it's not that you can build a bigger van or whatever. This was already the fact that we could choose one, and maybe we could take the. I don't even remember, but we made sure that it was big enough that you could shoot it. We were not shooting anamorphic or whatever, so that because then could have made it a problem or so. It's just not as easy to shoot it like that. But yeah, we're used to that. That's fun. That is. Yeah. I have, of course, a slightly different background coming from Europe and very small independent movies when I started out. And some of that you can never lose. So Scott Rudin was always famous for getting the latest new import the cinematographer on movies. So that's probably how I landed that job. I just only been here for 2 years, I think. That is in the United States, and but I shot a couple of movies that got people's attention, and it worked out great because Rick is not Hollywood,
Yeah.
and I was definitely not Hollywood. I had done 2 or 3 Hollywood movies by then, but I think that really helped the movie not being what it also could have been, because it could have easily been something pretty different, I think. and also, like, he found kids that were so interesting, and not what was in the script, but even more interesting, and said, well, yeah, we'll just change the script to accommodate for these kids, because these kids are going to be great in the movie. And that's how we worked, and that's how he kind of kept the studio and Rudin at bay at a certain place, because we were all warned, like, oh yeah, Scott Rudin, he wants to have like 1,000 super close-ups of all the kids. Rick had not much interest in that, but so he was strong enough and independent enough to, like a lot of people, it's their first Hollywood movie, they roll over for everything the studio will say. And Rick is independent enough, whatever, that he was like, I'm going to do it my way, and and that helped.
When the kids were filming, the parents had to be offset to help them feel comfortable.
You know what I love is that all of their parents, while we were shooting this, were in a tiny little room like a half a mile away from us, and they weren't allowed to like sit on the set and watch us acting.
Did you want 15 parents?
Dude, of course not. Because it goes to my theory that it's impossible to rock in front of your parents. And I discovered this when I first played in front of my mom. The first rock show I played in front of my mom was the worst show I've ever done. Not that I was stoked that the parents were uncomfortable, but I contend that it's impossible to rock in front of parents.
So I know that the moms weren't allowed to be on the set when they were filming, or from what I've read, it sounds like they were allowed in the rehearsal spaces. And
in the rehearsal space, definitely, they were sitting up in the control room of the Sonic Youth room. The first room was a control room, and then the next room was the sort of rehearsal space. Yeah, they were definitely there for rehearsals. And I believe 1 or 2 people from the film, it was really controlled. But now that you mention, yes, they were on lot for the filming. But they weren't like in the room, like they weren't on set. They were usually, there was like the mother's room, where they all kind of hung out.
Do you feel like there was a different kind of energy when the moms were around versus when they were?
Oh, sure. I mean, it depended on the kid and it depended on the mom. It definitely did have an effect. I mean, which is probably why they weren't allowed on set. I mean, I don't think they would have been able to get much done if the mothers were on set. So it's completely understandable.
From my understanding, you weren't allowed on set while they were actually filming.
Correct.
So how did you pass the time? How did the moms?
Well, we had we had a room upstairs that included the costume rooms and included classrooms as well. But we had really just a couch living room kind of area, with snacks and coffee and whatever. Played a lot of hearts. Kind of got cliquey, and different moms. So you have 15 moms sitting, up there waiting for their kids to come out. Some that we're still really close to, some that we don't really keep in touch with. But yeah, we had there were kind of different groups. So we were just. I also had a business at the time, and I pretty much had to close down the business because I just wasn't able to do a lot from there. And as I recall, we didn't have great internet. But yeah, so just talking, again, a lot of cards, a lot of TV, I guess.
I heard
we had
gambling on American Idol.
That there is gambling on American Idol?
The mom
yes. It was, okay, so it was the second season? I mean, it was early.
That's right, yeah.
It was early in on it, yes. We weren't as much into that. Well, the little group that I was with I don't think did it as much. But yeah, American Idol was a big, big part of it. And yes, and it was a brand new show, so people were super excited about it. I'm trying to think what else we did. I mean, we had a lot of fun when, they were on. We had more things we could do if they were on location, kind of. But we still were all kind of corralled into one area of the theater or wherever we were at. But it was hard to be away from the other kids. And as much as it was so exciting for them, like, again, my business I wasn't really able to run. Money for me got tight because I'm gone, but I still had to pay my mortgage, and I still, when I came back, I never really, I just kind of, I had a public relations firm, and when I came back, I kind of just closed it down and did some independent stuff. So that part, for me, was hard. But the experience is something that you just, even, and Kevin will say the same thing, the good and bad parts of it were just an experience you'll never get again, or very few people get. So one of the favorite things that the kids were not involved with, but all the parents went to, courtesy of Joseph, the costumer, was we went to Lips.
What's that?
It is a drag show, drag show restaurant, and it might have even been near Valentine's Day or something. And when we were else, I don't even remember what the real reason was. But he took all the moms to this drag show. It was great. I mean, there's a Lips in Chicago now too. Actually, we're going to go for Mother's Day, but
check that out.
Yeah, but it was. It was when Lips. The only place they had it was there. Now they have Lips in all the big cities, I guess. And it was just a night especially for a few of the parents or moms that they had never seen a drag show. They had never been anywhere around anything like that. And the women coming, and snuggling up to them, and their embarrassment was quite hilarious. And we went to a couple other off-Broadway shows that we would go as a group. And again, a lot of them were somewhat raunchy, and there's a few parents that were just a little bit more naive than other parents. So we had, and we've stayed. The moms have stayed in different stages. Have stayed fairly close.
Karen Waltouch taught the kids to look believable playing the classical instruments in the music class scene. This particular song was actually recorded by Jim O'Rourke in his kitchen, with him playing every instrument.
The classroom scene, where they're playing like a little bit of classical music, that's actually mostly me playing. I made that recording, and then they mimed to it. And I just made an arrangement for the instruments they wanted on screen, and then recorded it. Yeah. I think I even had to play clarinet on that, if I remember correctly. I recorded that in my kitchen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because they needed it quick. So I just recorded it in my kitchen. Yes, she can't, and they needed someone to help the kids with the violins and stuff in the classical scene. So yes, I asked my friend Karen to come in to work with the kids on the classical scene. So yes, so she taught the kids how to move for the playback for the classical scene. Yes, I just remember. So Karen Woltich.
When Dewey is putting the band together for the first time, we hear Jack Black's actual playing on the solo, as opposed to in Zach's song and in Fight, where it's overdubbed. While the rough cut also had his solo here replaced, Jack fought to have his actual solo here.
I had to learn how to play electric guitar a little bit because all I play is acoustic guitar, and I'm still not very good at electric guitar. And the truth is, I'm not very good at acoustic guitar, but I make up for it with intensity.
Linklater says one of the hardest things to do in the whole movie was to get Miranda Cosgrove to sing poorly.
This was the hardest thing to do in the entire movie. Miranda is actually a very good singer. To get off key and to not, for you to believe what you just did there.
The one-day pop star achieved this with some lessons from Jim O'Rourke.
Yeah, and I had a few lessons with her to get her to sing bad, because she was actually quite a good singer. And they did, her, as you know, she was supposed to sing bad. So, I mean, that was more just trying to get her to laugh and stuff. I mean, that was actually quite fun. It was just like an hour or two, once or twice, to get her to sing bad without it sounding purposeful, So, I think at some point I don't know if I did, but I was going to play like some Schoenberg Girl Leader or some stuff like that, so to kind of confuse her brain.
I think you did confuse her brain, because she's gone on in interviews and said that she had to work to unlearn the stuff that you taught her before she could get signed to her Columbia deal.
Well, it's probably not true. That's a good story.
Yeah.
I was amused when I saw that. I don't think I'm that good of a teacher, but I'm glad she even remembered me. That was nice.
For the other teachers at Horace Green, some notable names were brought in. Lee Wilkof originated the role of Seymour in Little Shop of Horrors on Broadway.
I think the first thing I did, there was an informal kind of reading for it before they formally started with production, and I did a reading. And I remember that they reached out to me, and it was not an audition. But the reading, I think, served as an audition for the actual film, because on the basis of the reading, I got offered, I believe, the role that I read at the informal reading. I like the idea of doing a reading because they hear you do the whole arc of the character, rather than just go in and read a scene. And it's a little bit more relaxed, because it's not like I was told when I did the informal table read that this is an audition. But my assumption was, they're making this thing, I better do a good job. But it's not quite as pressurized as going in and reading for the director. And so it was very relaxed. I remember it being relaxed. This was exciting. And as I said, I was a fan of Richard Linklater, and to be just doing a reading of something that he was working on was really cool.
Wally Dunn had worked with Joan Cusack previously on In and Out, as did Kate McGregor Stewart, who played Mrs. Lemons.
Yeah. Did I say that correctly? Schneebly?
Actually, it's Schneebley.
It was at a nice busy point in my career. I'd been cast in, but we hadn't started rehearsals for a revival of Gypsy on Broadway with Bernadette Peters. And our filming dates were, I think we were on set between Christmas and New Year's. And I was starting rehearsal for Gypsy in mid-January. So it was sort of like that, it's like, oh, wow, this is actually pretty cool. So, but yeah, long story short, yeah, my agents called me in, gave me the appointment, and I went in, and my expectations were elevated when I found out that Jack Black was involved, and Mike White, who I had heard of, never worked with either of them prior. This has a better chance than some of the other projects that I've done. Just by virtue of who was in it, and that information sort of gets strung out a little bit. It's a Jack Black led film. It's Richard Linklater,
So that was another big plus. I was I'm a big fan of his work, and was coming into it. So it was like, yeah, this is an audition I want to go to, and really, really happy I was able to get the offer and have the job.
In rehearsals one time, Jack and Robert did a long handshake, and Rick said to remember it, but Jack was pretty much still improvising it during filming. Richard taught Miranda how to do the look she does when Summer confronts Dewey about being a groupie. When Jack does a Gila Monster scream and kicks over a desk at the end of playing Step Off, that was all real and unexpected, leading to the laughter and reactions from all the kids being very real. Rivka says that the set dresser got pissed. Surprisingly, Robert Sy isn't laughing here, when he was the main one laughing during all the other scenes.
Just give up! Lawrence is good at piano. He shall be rocking in my shoe. Stop.
Kids are gonna laugh. Okay, Jack is not big like we're gonna rehearse it or so. So a lot of stuff you would see at the same time, and we would try to, where we could incorporate it, like get their reactions. But sometimes even off camera, he would just, he's a big kid himself. So he would make the kids smile. Yeah, he would just do something weird, something that was not in the script, or he didn't do it the take before, so he's doing it. So I'm sure quite often that the kids were smiling and on every take, and then Jack is, he'll do it again, and then he'll do it again. Try to get the kids out of there.
Concentration.
They had a lot of. Yeah, but that happens on comedy, so that's the fun part of comedies. That is,
Robert was amazing. He and Robert had a great time together, but Robert was very shy. And he was the only one, and our trips and things like that, a lot of times he wouldn't go because he had studying to do.
What I was really impressed by was the care and the way he interacted with the kids who made up a big part of the film. His relationship with each and every one of them, and during breaks between setups, he was talking to the kids. He was treating them as an equal. He was having fun with them. There were a couple of times when he said a couple of things that sort of went over their heads, and to watch him deal with the fact that somebody just wasn't getting him when the rest of us, the adults, are sort of cracking up was fun to watch on a bunch of levels. These kids, the kids being able to just not be overly impressed with Jack Black, because I don't think until later they understood who he was in a real sense. I mean, they probably were told. Robert played the keyboards. Jack was giving him some of his best material in the lunch line, and Robert was going, okay, just not picking up on the comedy gold that was that Jack was sharing. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, mostly was with Robert, to get Robert to loosen up a bit, because he was trained to play in one tempo, and you play in that tempo right on the beat, and of course the tempos were going to go up and down because it's just natural when you play that music. So the hardest part was getting Robert to loosen up a bit, and that was mostly I would just try to make him laugh and stuff, and make him stumble, so that he would kind of get used to that it was okay not to play completely straight. With Robert, I didn't no, now slow down. I was just more trying to distract him and get him to at least have some sort of kind of an experience of making a mistake or messing up in his mind, and finding out that it's okay. That's not a bad thing. I mean, Robert was actually really funny, and because I knew what kind of background he was coming from, because I had I had played double bass in orchestra since I was in high school. So I sort of knew where he was coming from, and how awkward this was for him. So and he was very, very polite also. So I really enjoyed working with him, and with him it was easy to talk to because there was something that we had something in common. And Joey, of course, really, I could see, I could remember being a little kid wanting to play guitar. So there was a way for me to feel more comfortable with them.
The stairs, which are seen just after the montage, were just a part of the set, and they led nowhere. The kids mentioned in the commentary that you could climb to the top of them and see everything on set.
Where are your sleeves? And what have you done to your hair? It's called punk.
When Jack says, "Let's do this," he stole that from Dave Grohl.
Okay, I just said let's do this.
That's
Actually,
a Jack.
I stole that. I stole that from Dave Grohl. He
Credit Dave with that one.
sometimes he would say less, paging less, let's do this.
That became one of our running.
Yeah, let's do
themes.
this.
I'm like in awe of Jack Black. For lack of a better word, the man has as big a balls as anybody I've ever seen in show. He is fearless. He is willing to put it all out there. And he did that in the picture. He was there for the work. And he kept to himself. And I was expecting something, and I got something else. And frankly, I had more. I came out of it with greater awe for him, because when cameras rolled, he was 1,000%. And when the cameras were not rolling, I believe that it was all about the work. It wasn't about schmoozing or fucking around or acting out and being funny and I was so impressed with him. He was just brilliant in that film. He holds it all together. And if he hadn't, those kids, I could tell those kids loved him. You can tell watching the film. And if they hadn't, the film wouldn't have worked. He knew that he needed to develop this special relationship with them, which he did, and it comes across in the film. They adored him on and off screen.
Well, Jack Black, he's the nicest guy. I mean, he acts like he's just, 11 years old, just like me, and we'll just jam with each other and we'll tell jokes, and he's a really cool guy just to hang around with.
We think that he's kind of scared about being funny around us because he's been in adult movies and he curses a little bit.
You. We get one foot on a PG-13, I think. That's the one. That could be it. Right off camera. Richard brings reality, and he brings an honesty and a believability to the thing, which is important because I'm always sort of going 10 miles too far over the top, and sometimes I have a tendency to go crazy ham and cheese, and he reins me in. He brings it back to reality.
Jack describes it as a process of me reining him in, but I swear, I'm not exaggerating. That was not an agenda of mine to rein him in any way. We did a lot of takes. We rehearsed it forever, and we'd shoot a lot of takes, and Jack kept coming with new ideas.
You really think that Dewey would, explode cheese out of his nose? And I'm like, yes, I think it's real. He's like, all right, well, let's try one take where you don't. And then that'll be the take that he uses.
He was easy to work with. I don't ever want to create the impression that, he was this Tasmanian devil of energy. That's what people kind of want to project. Like, what was it like working with Jack? They just see this energy ball, and that you have to just rein him in like you would a wild stallion or something. But it's like, it wasn't like that. He's an actor. He came up through theater. He's very serious about his craft.
There were cut romances between Dewey and Miss Mullins and between Katie and Freddie.
And right from the moment you looked at her, she looks at you right there?
Yeah.
That scene continued.
Yeah.
She crawled in your lap.
That's right. That's when the legendary makeout scene that was
legendary,
cut out
but is no more.
I know why it was cut out, though. It was
political reasons.
Well, plus, if I made out with her, then when she finds out I'm a fraud, That would
yeah,
just be
it was one of those
too
things.
unforgivable.
It's one of those things that's in itself is really funny, but it ultimately opened a can of worms that we never could resolve, or it was just a subtle thing. Like we had one screening, I think, and it was like,
How much of the decisions as far as cinematography were you, and how closely was Richard Linklater involved in that? I guess because I know in some films they work really closely.
He's a real filmmaker. He has a way of, like, maybe not so much in the lighting, although we talked about all the natural, this look good, but no, nothing real. But in the terms of what he wants to see and how he wants to capture stuff, that is, he's totally on top of that. That is, we work on some movies. I have to do a lot of it, but on this movie we did it all together. That is, it's really like, and it's often he has like, I want to do this in one, or is there a way we can follow them? And I think this is a great shot. It's hard that time to do that on film, when we follow the kids and then they go outside into the van, and we did it in one. We ran outside over the parking lot, and then the camera went straight into the van, and they're playing cards there with kids are playing cards with the band, with some people of the band. I think one of the older kids, and stuff like that. So but that comes from him. He really wanted that, and then it's for me to make. How are we going to make that happen?
Well, inside the van, obviously him playing, with the bands and hanging out with them, and I think they were smoking and doing whatever else they were in there. But pretty much his lines there, and then the whole thing with Jack pulling him out and yelling at him, that was all pretty improv between the two of them. I think it was only one take, and the crew was just hysterical. So maybe it was more than one take just because they were laughing so hard. But that was the other thing, is he and Jack had a really nice rapport, to where there were things that kind of went a little bit off script. Just some of his shots at Jack and stuff like that. And I think him falling down outside the van when they're all supposed to be sick, I'm not sure that was scripted either, but it was a lot of fun. So doing that, so he enjoyed that. He loved all the band rehearsals and things that they had to, do with the with the music director and things like that. And so they were always pulled out. And I think the music studio was in Tribeca. So they'd do different things. I'm not even sure what the rest of the cast was doing while they were doing that. The other highlight for him was he was a year older than the other kids. A full year older than the other kids. And so he got to spend a lot of time with Jack, doing stuff in Jack's trailer, because he had one less hour of school for some reason. I don't know where that break was, but so yeah. He was somewhat Spazzy McGee sometimes on the set as well. They had to, especially during tutoring and things like that, they had to kind of, okay, Kevin, get serious kind of thing.
The board of bands was up for weeks, allowing everyone on set to contribute.
The big board.
The legendary board.
God, we spent weeks on that. I remember putting it up like a week before and letting the cast and crew comment, because I didn't want everybody's... I hate these things when someone has the definitive family tree of the history of whatever. Inevitably, you just want to pick it apart. So...
yeah.
At least everyone got to criticize and have some input. And
that's true.
It became a group project. It got the whole cast and crew kind of all on the same page.
What was good was that by the time it was time to shoot that scene,
we were done with
it. Felt like it was done.
Yeah, we had signed up. Everyone had signed off.
When I watch the film, I usually pause it on the blackboard, because it is, I think right there, that blackboard, the whole schematic of influences and what rock and roll, which is what I grew up with. It's just like that's like perfect. That's perfect primer, and so I'm continually fascinated by that, because I look at it and then I go, okay, yep, all right, I get that. Okay, I see how that goes, and I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah, and then there was the chalkboard, which is with the history of rock on it. And like that was sort of like a whole bunch of people were like contributing to that. I mean, I think it was started by Mr. Poster, but then once they started putting it on the board, like people on set would sort of like, I think I put Sparks on there, and I think This Heat I also wrote on there.
Nice.
So yeah, I got to write a few names on there. I did not write my own name. I had a professor in college who did that on a chronology of composers, and at the end he wrote his own name.
I think I saw Sonic Youth on there though. So that
I didn't write that either. I think that was probably a joke. But I did write Sparks for sure. I know I wrote Sparks on there.
Kind of along those same lines, you were originally gonna have a little cameo in the movie, correct?
I mean, that there was talk about it. I mean, maybe it was just like, like jokes or, like banter. But I mean, yeah, but it wasn't like I was going to be playing a character. I would just be like some guy going, and I probably would have been really terrible. I probably would have overacted my chin wag as well. So maybe it's for the best. But yeah, they had just started working on that part of the movie, and there was a Sonic Youth Europe tour or Asia tour or whatever. So I was away for like a month after that. Once they started filming in Staten Island, although I did get to go out there once or twice while they were building the sets there, and it was pretty wild because it was like some big abandoned place from I don't know when, and it had been not used in years, and it was pretty wild because I tend to like large abandoned buildings are fascinating. So it was pretty cool to go out there for a day and watch like the construction crew and the set designers and everybody work, because I'm a movie dork. So that was cool that they let me go out there, even though I had really nothing to do there.
Sarah Silverman liked to make Mike White and the camera crew crack up before beginning to film.
Okay, Sarah Silverman is in this scene.
Oh, man.
And she is so funny, but she was constantly torturing Mike.
Constantly.
By making him laugh right before it was time for his take. And I think
her favorite line was, "Okay, guys," to the crew, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to do it?
Wasn't it? You guys, come on. Let's do this fast. Mike has diarrhea.
She said that
Action.
about 14 times.
And then you would say action, and Mike would be stuck in this weird...
At one point, there was a fire, but Jack had it all under control.
Ned, Candace from Horace Green wants to know where to send your check.
Who? Hold on. Hello? Uh-oh. Fire! Fire! Ah! Oh my God! Dude, call 911! Call 911! Give me the phone! Give me the phone! Oh. 911.
Yeah,
You got it?
Call them.
You got it?
Oh my gosh! It's up the wires!
Seriously.
What happened was the flames got out of control. Sarah was in trouble, and I leapt into action. I was running over that way to get the fire extinguisher. Luckily, another dude had one over here. But there was no danger because I had it under control. Complete control. That's really embarrassing.
Sorry.
I really just remember a good, consistently magical feeling. Like this project was touched. It was charmed. Starting with Jack, all the way down, it was just really filled with wondrous characters. And it's so rare that any project, but particularly a relatively big budget major motion picture, is filled with such consistently high grade characters. Big hearts, big imaginations, smart people, great communal vibe, a real sense of play. And I suppose Richard is like that too. I think he tends to have that vibe on the movies that he works on. And at the time, I think I was maybe I took that for granted, because at the time I really had only worked on a few movies. So I don't know if I remember anything specific, except that just general fairy dust around the project. It just all went down real easy, at least for me. I can't speak for anybody else.
Behind the scenes, everyone would spend time just hanging out. Angelo went to Jack's trailer one time and taught him how to beat the first level of Splinter Cell for Xbox. Then there's the whole Zeppelin scene, which is perhaps one of the best-known stories from School of Rock. Rick Linklater had previously tried to get permission to use a Led Zeppelin song in the movie Dazed and Confused, but was unsuccessful. For this movie, he had Jack Black, while filming the Battle of the Bands scene and having 1,000 extras available, beg Led Zeppelin to allow them to use the Immigrant song.
Jimmy Page, John Paul Jones, the gods of rock. And the greatest rock band of all time. We need your song, man. We need the Immigrant song. This is a movie about rock. And without that song, this movie will crumble into smithereens. Oh no, the movies kick ass. But dude, your song would be the hard rockin' cherry on the top of the mountain. Please. One time. I just want you one time to repeat after me. Lords of Rock, Led Zeppelin! Lords of Rock, Led Zeppelin! Grace us with your mighty love! Grace us with your mighty love!
While Jack was busy with Tenacious D, Adam Pascal was just as busy with his other job, originating the role of the Egyptian General Redimes in the Elton John and Tim Rice musical, Aida. In between production, practice, and actual school, the kids would spend their time going to see shows on Broadway, including their castmate in Aida. They also played with toys called homies. They drew up School of Rock magazines for their parents about the set. They played Dance Dance Revolution, and they played games like Patty Cake.
Number 9, sock it to me one more time, said Ngawa, we got the power, said Ngawa, we got the power. Little Sally Walker was walking down the street. She didn't know what to do, so she jumped in front of me. She said, go on, girl, do your thing, do your thing, do your thing. Said, go on, girl, do your thing, do your thing. Stop! Not too shabby.
And, brought to them by Robert Sy, they played Styx competitively until a sickness swept through the cast for weeks.
You play this game Styx, you use your fingers, and the thing is, somebody had the stomach flu, and then it started to spread. Everyone was getting this slippery stomach flu, so there was a new rule, no touching allowed.
Jack Black became enamored with Luger's Steakhouse, a New York staple with the best steak in the universe. The kids got to try all kinds of new food and new experiences in New York as well.
It was a great experience. I mean, we got to know New York backwards. But, yeah.
What was Kevin's first impression, of New York?
Oh, he loved it. We went to a lot of Soho and Lower Broadway with all the musical stuff, and So and yeah, he was pretty good. I'd been in New York several times. I love New York, and my mother was a Broadway dancer, so she used to take me when I was a kid. We were there quite a bit to see shows. So yeah, I mean, it kind of was one of those in your blood kind of things. I mean, he loved Times Square. He loved the big music stores that were right off Times Square.
Was that kind of nostalgic for you to be able to like show him around the city that you went to as a kid and stuff?
Yeah, but I mean, yes, mostly Times Square-ish area and Soho. I have relatives who own several of the restaurants out in Tribeca, so we would go there a lot. So this was a kid who, at 12 years old, 13 years old, would eat at Nobu, and was my cousin's restaurant. So and he actually is became a great cook, but very big gourmet eater. He was my best eater as far as that goes. So we loved all those experiences, and he adored all of that. And I mean, I think just unless you're super shy or just into really warm weather, I don't know who wouldn't love being in New York as basically a tourist. But and we had drivers who were driving us everywhere, so that was nice.
I know Nicole was telling us how she was an extra in the movie.
She was. So
was your whole family out there all staying in the...
No, it was just me and Kevin. My ex-husband moved back into my house to take care of Carrie and Nicole, but she came out, I don't know if it was over Christmas. It must have been over Christmas break. And so she shot 3-4 days as one of the kids in the background during the cafeteria scenes. And if you actually watch the movie, you'll see her in 2 different spots. One eating an apple, and another one with her hair back doing something. But she's pretty prominent, not doing anything, but she was an extra. And then my son, Kerry, and a friend of his came out to visit as well. He was a senior in high school at the time. And they were extras in the crowd scenes for the show.
I was an extra for like 2 or 3 days, and I basically sat in the back of the cafeteria in the movie, and you'll see me eating an apple.
Oh, so we could like maybe point you out.
Oh, 100%. You can see me. I'm in a couple little scenes, and I'm adorable with a little braid, eating an apple, and like I went back to school, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, you were the girl eating the apple." But it was awesome on set. I mean, it was like it's a movie. Like you're like literally in this Paramount production, and it's like, what is going on? This is real life.
They also got to experience Valentine's Day 2003 on set, as well as young love being in the New York air. Miranda Cosgrove says that when filming, she didn't like boys yet, but afterward, her friends told her that Kevin was cute, and she realized they were right and she'd missed her chance. Kevin gave Miriam a Valentine's Day card, which made her swoon. On the classroom set, Joey asked Caitlin to be his Valentine. Cole Hawkins gave Alicia a curve-colored MAC lip gloss, as he had a crush on her. Though he was more of a brother to her, she still uses that kind of lip gloss to this day. Rivka said in an interview with Entertainment Weekly that Angelo was the first boy that they looked at and thought, "I like you," and the first boy that they held hands with, on 2 occasions. They explored New York with their moms close behind as they stood awkwardly close to each other.
I loved it. It really suited my personality, which is a combination of having played in junior high school bands, cover bands mostly, playing some of the same songs that are in the School of Rock soundtrack, and then being a camp counselor and a teacher occasionally. So it really kind of connected a whole lot of dots, a whole lot of really fun dots for me. That I remember when Randy first asked me to kind of be band liaison, band practice person, because I think Jim O'Rourke had been doing it, but he had to maybe go back on tour, so they needed a replacement, and I stepped in. And at first, I think I was very, very nervous, but then immediately when I met the kids, B, met the kids' parents, and C, got into a band practice situation, I was basically like, oh, I've been doing this my whole life. It's just a combination of different skills that I hadn't really thought about in a few years or pieced together in a while. So once it actually started in earnest and the anticipation ended, the nervous anticipation ended, it was smooth sailing.
Were you surprised or impressed by the kids' abilities and like togetherness, or?
Yeah, I was very impressed. I don't know if I was surprised at that point because I'm sure I'd seen the whole movie by the time I started rehearsing with them probably, or maybe I had seen some footage. It's so hard to remember. It was a long time ago. But certainly I had seen what they were capable of because they were well into the shoot before I came in and started working with them, the kids. And, but I remember being surprised at how excited I was to rock with a bunch of kids in band practice. It really touched upon my junior high school experience. And it was just all right there. It was really, really fun.
One day, Brian Faldudo walked onto set, and his lunchbox had a last name. He was Billy Curtis. Now, it was time to shoot the movie's climax Battle of the Bands. Filming took multiple weeks to perfect the sequence.
When I walked into that room and saw the smoke and the lights and the big crowd, I'm like, when is Metallica going to come out on stage?
One of my favorite shots I've ever done in any movie, and I've done it a couple of times now, and which drives producers crazy. Like there's like a couple of hundred extras sitting in a room, so everybody wants you to go to the shots with the extras. That's important. But for us, what was really important to capture like the enthusiasm and the emotion of the kids getting for the first time to a real big theater, and then getting there and then going to that real stage, and then on top of that, in the end, there was 1,100 extras that day in the stage. But so we did this long shot where they come into the hallways, up the stairs, go backstage, go to the back of the stage, and then the camera peeps around them, and then you see the band playing, and you see people, and then we tilt up to the second balcony, the third balcony. There's all these people there, and something like that. That's not every director will dare to do that, and will fight nervous producers who are like, well, we have to go to those people. They're all gonna leave. We have to shoot the extras. And that was really great. And that was always from that point where we shot the movie, and how can we get the most out of Jack? Because to not exhaust them, we designed a system where we had two cameras kind of on a dolly, and we could follow him around and do long takes at the same time, but still have the two sizes. Because he would give it all, and sometimes it would be impossible to do 5 takes and then 5 more for the close-up. So that would be impossible. So we designed it all in the classroom to be like that, and wherever we could, we tried to do something longer, which would give you be with the kids, feel their enthusiasm, be with the car, following the car behind when it drives on the school. That kind of energy is something that I always love, and Rick too. But definitely being on for myself, it was what was really fun, because I had said and also Scott Rudin is a big theater, and we need somebody to help us with that big end show. I can't suddenly be filming a movie and be lighting a show like that, because I've never done anything like that. I can tell them what I like and what I don't like and react on that, but I can design that from scratch.
Jules Fisher and Peggy Eisenhower were brought in with numerous Tony Awards between them to provide their lighting expertise. They also had just provided lighting for all the musical numbers in Academy Award-winning movie Chicago.
And they were the biggest lighting designers in Broadway at that time. And they came in, and we had some conversations with them, and then they started designing the show, the light show. And then at a certain moment towards the end of the movie, on every Saturday, we would go there and rehearse with them, and then I would say, I like this and I like this, and start setting levels for what works in a theater doesn't always work on a film camera. So and that was, to me, was like I'd never done that before, and that was really 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 great.
1,100 extras were also brought in for the crowd.
Let's take it from the claps. 5, 6, 7, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Baby, we were making days, but we were stuck in the dumb days. Don't take much to memorize your life.
Jim O'Rourke came up with the finger gun idea for Robert's side to do.
This D is the most important movement of the movie. It's both the dramatic and musical climax of the film.
And Robert, D's right here.
But no. See, he's doing 2 Ds. He's giving double the effort.
He's giving 2 Ds of
double the effort.
That's great.
I had to leave on tour with the Sonics around about the time halfway through filming the big final thing. And Joey had been bugging me to give him a record of mine. So I had Insignificance had just come out a little bit before that. I was like, oh, okay. And so I brought the CD and I had it in my bag. And I was about to give it to him when I remembered like all the horrible pictures that are inside the CD. There's like these drawings by this artist in Japan, and they're not dirty, but they're not for children. And I was about to hand it over, and I remembered the second I was about to hand it over, I was like, you know what? I'll sign this for you, and I'll get it back to you. And then I actually left. That's when I left to go to the airport to go on tour, and so I never met him again after that. So yeah, working with kids, you really have to like walk on eggshells. So
yeah, definitely. It was really hard, like to do the end scene of the movie. You have to rehearse it weeks in advance and the weekends. And if we would have done it now, I think we could have made it maybe more spectacular. But that's but at that time, although we had a techno crane and we had whatever, it's just, at both kinds of like both Rick and I think at that time were like really against like, let's not swing that crane around like you're on a music video on MTV or like on music on a live MTV thing because everybody was doing it. So we really didn't want that. And I remember a couple of years ago when I saw it, I thought, well, yeah, we could maybe have done something more, but I don't know exactly how, because it's it was a complete, to get that crane in there, they had to build a new floor, reinforce the floor in that theater. So once it was there, it's not that you could go back out. This was before you did elaborate visual effects. Now we would say, oh, we'll do a wider shot, we'll paint the crane out or so. But it was not really a time when it was probably possible, but nobody was thinking like that. Also because it was expensive to think like that. And then maybe we could have done a couple more, but I don't think it needed it. It was so, in a way, it's so satisfying that those kids are all playing finally on that big stage and they singing and singing their heart out. And yeah, I really like, again, something that Rick really wanted is the end sequence where they're playing to the end titles and all in one long Steadicam take, and where all the kids are reintroduced again and playing that. Stuff like that is so great that you see those kids play and really do have that for real. That there's nothing greater to get in front of your camera.
And Kevin actually came up with the ending of the movie.
So at one of our earlier table reads, the ending wasn't landing. Like, we tried one version of it where we win, we tried another version of it where we lose, and that's it. And like, it just wasn't hitting. And the team was just like, what do we do about this ending? And Kevin is just like, it would be cool if like we lost and then the audience started cheering, School of Rock, School of Rock, and then they bring us out for an encore. So this guy at 13 years old wrote the ending of School of Rock. He was just such an amazing, creative, talented guy, and I just miss him so much. I love you, Kev. Every day. I think about you every day, and I just miss you so much, but I know you're here.
Yeah, Sweet Jane was probably the first one we tried because it's, so easy, just to get to find out what kind of groove they had together. And I believe even Jack, that might have been one of the days Jack came in.
For the longest time,
I believe
Velvet Underground's Sweet Jane was among the frontrunners in debates for the end credits song. They practiced it a lot with Jim O'Rourke, but ultimately, Long Way to the Top was chosen after Rick saw it in a rehearsal a couple weeks before they filmed it. With tons of improv, no acting rehearsal, and on the second to last day of production, with only a couple hours left in the day, it was the perfect song to allow the kids freedom to just have fun and be authentic, to the point of Kaylin Hale improving her iconic line, "The last shot filmed was inside the school bus. Then after 4 memorable months, School of Rock wrapped."
Did you learn anything from the kids or from being on set?
Well, of course, don't smoke roll-ups. There's going to be kids around. But on the serious, I mean, for me, it was the thing that was, and this is just me being honest, the thing that was interesting for me was the whole parent-kid relationship, like seeing the various different types of stage mothers that there were, because it was a variety of stage, like the kind of, if you would make 4 like archetypes, I guess you could say, of like what a stage mother is like. They were all there. Each mother was like kind of fitting into one of the types that you would expect. So that was interesting, and also a little bit. I mean, because it was kids, it was a little bit scary. The producers really have to be on their toes. I'm sure there's like all sorts of like laws and everything about ways working with kids and stuff. So, I mean, I actually felt a lot of sympathy for like a lot of the like, like assistant directors and assistant producers and stuff like that, because it's a really delicate balancing act to make that work. And then you add in the mothers, which I'm not saying that is a negative thing. It's just, but it's a whole other layer of like, like a nuanced path you have to walk. So
yeah, definitely.
Seeing that in person was really interesting for me. And I mean, luckily, outside of the cigarette thing, as far as I know, everything was fine. But it was, you could always see that it was not because anyone was like behaving badly or anything. It's just like you've got 4 kids and then 4 their mothers, and it's like this continuously, like it's like 8 people standing on a plate, like on a stick. Any person moving a little bit the wrong way, and it's all going to tumble. That was my biggest memory from doing it. It was like just seeing that kind of situation, which was so different than the thing I was used to. Like, say, if you're producing a record or something, and you're dealing with like, okay, maybe 4 or 5 personalities who are trying to make a record, and you have to kind of see like, which way do we have to push, which way do we have to pull to keep this ship afloat. But it was kind of next level sort of map making, I guess you could say, to make that work.
Was School of Rock through the union?
Yeah, I was a member of the union, so my job was union. I was protected on the set with safety protocols, working conditions. There was a set minimum, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think I got minimum plus 10, which is a standard amount. So SPAG minimum plus 10%, which covers the agent's commission. So they sometimes just roll that together so that an actor is still making the minimum. So yeah, and after the film, in a certain way, I'm still being rewarded for that work, because there are residuals involved, and there's an arcane formula that only MIT mathematicians can figure out. I've never cracked it, but each union has gets a percentage of the continuing profits from the film or a film. So it's a job that was so much fun to do, so much fun to be a part of. I'm honored to be continue to be a part of, and it's been economically remunerative, and I had no problem with that, because that was an agreement that the producers made with Screen Actors Guild, and all right, it was mutually beneficial.
Now, the movie moved to Sandra Adair, where it would be the 7th Richard Linklater movie she edited.
I remember reading a review talking about how basically Richard and his team figured out how to harness Jack Black's energy and turn it into a positive. How did you, when you get footage, were getting footage for like that, how do you assess your rushes? How do you determine what you want to use in your process?
That was an embarrassment of riches.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, that Jack Black is the most disciplined actor you can imagine. I expected there to be like yards and yards of ad libs and just.
Oh, really? I expected that too.
No, not at all. He was ready, rehearsed, and every take. I mean, every take nailed it. He was fantastic, and he's so hardworking. I mean, I can't say one single negative thing about that experience, but it was between Jack Black and Joan Cusack and the kids. It was pretty. In terms of a comedy, I had never cut a comedy per se like that before, and so I was in my mind thinking, oh, I'm going to have to like cut faster, funnier, stupider, or something like that. Yeah. But that was not the case because the actors' natural timing of their delivery and responses was so perfect. It really was a little bit of a blueprint for putting that movie together. But thank goodness there was no like unleashed Jack Black that I had to deal with.
Well, I almost feel like maybe that's just like a story that sort of bubbled that he's got like so much energy, but then meanwhile he's just really hardworking.
He's hardworking, and I mean, I think he and Rick and Mike White, who wrote it, it was the perfect. You know, there are some films that I feel like it's like the perfect combination of personalities and material, and that was one in my career where I can say it was the perfect storm for that film. The energy, the music knowledge. Rick is like a walking encyclopedia of music, and so is Jack, and so is Mike. So, you know, it was blessed. That project was blessed.
Meanwhile, the band prepared for promotion and screenings.
Okay, well, have a great evening. No, day. Evening. Have a great evening.
Yeah. Midnight. We'll call it morning, I guess.
Sorry. Okay. Sorry about that.
However you want to. Oh, no, I definitely appreciate it. Glad we were able to make it work.
Try to calm me down, but I won't have it. Then we go down the rabbit hole. Then we go down the rabbit hole. Why do I have to suffer like this every day? I know that it's all in my head, yeah. Taking deep breaths to slow things down, but it don't work. I tried, but